We both worked with David Fincher, who's, pound for pound, one of the most talented filmmakers around, but I worked with him when he was blessedly still working in film, so he would do like 30 or 40, and you did like the first one where he was on digital, and I was working with a mutual friend of ours in China, and we were getting emails from Mark saying like, we just passed number 80, and I just heard him say like, erase the first 35 or something like that. He was like in despair.
Did it take 12? Okay, yeah, I can do this. There was one take. We were like at take 85, and it was a big single and a walk and talk. It was like 7 pages. And it was one of my first days of work, and he started walking over to me, and I thought to myself, you know what, they're going to have to pay me anyway. They got the wrong guy, and I know they got the wrong guy, and obviously he's finally figured it out, so it's fine, Mark, you did your best. And then he walked right by me to the background guy behind me, and he moved him like 2 inches, and then he turned around and walked away and patted me on the back as he went, and I went, you know what, this dude is like, I'm only 10% of the frame, and this guy's going for 100%. And this actor's hitting his high spot at this moment. This actor's still lagging, and he is going to wait until we're all the best we could possibly be at that special moment when everything comes together. And then once you realize that's the trip you're on, then that's the trip you go on, you know? Mm-hmm. That's what part of that thing I was saying is like each movie, each director, each thing, it has its own journey and its own style. And I find the more I've given over to that, the less I suffer, the more fun I have.
Oh, that's part of the joy, yeah.
It was Zodiac.
Oh, boy.
Doing a special on David Fincher.
Okay.
How do you describe him as a filmmaker?
I genuinely love Fincher, and I'm so excited to see anything that he does, come out. I remember like talking to him, and I was like, "What are you doing?" He's just making this Benjamin Button movie. I go, "And how's it going?" He goes, "We're just waiting for a period car to start that's keeping 300 other cars from moving and doing the scene." And he has this thing where no matter how difficult something is, he's just patiently waiting, because ultimately he's a very exacting director, and he makes great films.
I got a few minutes with you today, and I always debate what I'm going to ask you about because there's a million things I want to talk to you about. But for today, I love the movie The Game, which is David Fincher's The Game. And I wanted to know if you could share a little bit about what it was like working on that. And did you get along with Fincher's method of doing a lot of takes, or was it something that was difficult for you?
It was difficult for me. I love David. The experience was great, but he pushes you to the limit. I mean, he just, because he sees stuff that you don't see that makes him want to try it again. But I knew I was in very good company and quality. So you try to do it, do the best you can, but it is exhausting. It is exhausting, and I've never worked with anybody quite like that who does as many takes.
And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more. I've already talked to you a little bit about this, about his David Fincher and his Enneagram. It's not his, but the personality test that David Fincher uses on each of his films. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. When I talk about this, everyone always thinks it's like, sounds like a cult, like it's like the new Scientology or something. It's not.
Actually, the Catholic Church has endorsed this.
They have not. It's this thing called the Enneagram, and it's sort of like a Myers-Briggs. It's a personality sort of categorization. And right before we started shooting Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, David started talking to me about it. He made me take the test so that I could find out what number I was. And he assigns each character whatever number they are, and I found it to be super helpful. I became sort of obsessed with it for a while. I made everyone I know take it, and it's very interesting, especially for an actor to have as a tool, and for a director. And
his general philosophy in making movies is that once I get you on the ride, I'm not going to let you off until you're back at the train station. So I'm not going to give you any reason to disengage. For example, mistakes, out of focus, eye lines, props, the cup that was here and now it's here. Anything that, whether consciously or subconsciously, allows you to disengage for a moment. You may walk out of the movie going, "Wow, that was a great movie," but there's something that's not quite settling for you. And that we try not to let happen. And so in that approach, you tend to try to do and make things as perfect or seamless as possible.
It's crazy in my mind thinking of how you'll, for me to compartmentalize that you can do like an entire season in 12 days, as you said, like 12 days, I could do a whole show. And then I think to your time on Gone Girl, where Fincher was probably like, take number 98 for today. And I think, how did that work, Tyler?
Julia. Let me tell you something. Honestly, the first thing I did was on Gone Girl was Elvis in the building. That was the line, and I did it probably 25 times. And I think, oh God, I'm a horrible actor. I don't know what's going on. I shouldn't have said yes to this. He's going to hate me. And Ben Affleck opens the door and he goes, okay. And David goes, okay, we're going to do it again. I'm like, and every time he does it, I'm getting smaller and smaller. And Ben opens the door. He goes, hey, just so you know, it's going to be a minimum 30 takes. It's not you. And he closes the door and he goes, action. And I open the door. Elvis is in St. Louis or whatever, in Missouri. But I realized something about him being also both of us being Virgo. His eye, he is like the first 10 takes, he is looking at the way the light is hitting a glass in the corner. He is brilliant in that sense. Like he sees in this panoramic kind of thing that you won't even understand until you see the movie. So I realized why he does so many takes.
Well, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah.
Hugely successful series.
Books, yes.
Yeah.
God, yes.
What was the movie? Are you done your parts?
No, I've got to go back to Sweden in May and finish playing I play the patriarch of the family. It's a terrific role, and I'm working for that wonderful director, David Fincher, yeah, who's surely going to win for The Social Network.
Yeah, is this first time? Have you met him before this project?
No,
came
I
up?
never had. No, but I find him absolutely extraordinary as a director. He's just wonderful, and I love that movie particularly because when I saw it, I wasn't aware that it had been directed at all. Mm-hmm. And that's surely the highest compliment you can give a director.
Do you find that because you have the history that you have and you have the career that you've had, that some directors don't direct you the way that you'd want to be, and they just have you come out and do your thing?
Yeah, most people have you come out and do your thing, and sometimes you're dying for help, but then obviously they're not going to give it to you. So you have to learn how to direct yourself, and that was a long time ago. You have to. And there are very few David Finchers in the world, You're going to be like, he's wonderful. He does too many takes, but he's wonderful.
All right, answer.
This is your first movie, Molly's Game, that you directed.
Yeah.
And I was curious. I know that obviously other directors have done a beautiful job getting your words onto the screen. Did you have any struggles? Because you can write some really good, you write fantastic dialogue, but you get a lot of words into a short space.
Yeah.
Did you find as a director that it was hard to direct someone speaking your words, your scripts?
On the third or fourth day of shooting, I called David Fincher, who had directed The Social Network and had been kind of my Yoda on this. Mm-hmm. And I said, David, where did you tell the actors to breathe when you're doing this? And this is the sound that I heard on the other end of the phone. That was all the help I got from David.
Yeah. Like this is your now you get to try it.
That's right. Yeah.
The scene in The Social Network where you find out the company's been taken away from you. And that's obviously the big pivotal scene of the whole film. And it's a big, long scene. It's not something short that you're going to shoot in half a day. Yeah. That's an all-day thing, I'm assuming, or more.
Yeah.
Can you take me back to sort of the lead up to that scene and how you had to deal with it?
Sure, yeah. It's nice to think about it because it was a very special shoot.
Yeah.
And yeah, that day, of course, it looms large. It's the monster that you're trying to not look at out of the corner of your eye that's just following you until the night before. And staying free within that pressure is the tricky thing. And I was under the impression that Fincher would probably go, he wouldn't need to do so many takes because he would want that raw emotion in the first few, and then he'd probably move on. But he didn't. It was the same as ever. He just did I think we did about 35 takes of my coverage of that, and it was absurd. It was totally absurd.
I can imagine.
But staying in it, I just tried to stay in it. But I would get confused about what was he needing that he wasn't getting, and why, and why do we keep doing it? But even with that voice, I was totally trusting of him because it's him, and I just love his films, and I just want It's the great thing about being on set with a director like that is you want to just give everything to them. And it was a really cool moment at the end because at a certain point I was like, this is never going to end. So I'm just going to stay in it and I'm going to imagine this is never going to fucking end. So in between takes, it was just head down, not talking to anybody and just kind of like keep staying in that internal space. So when he finally said, okay, moving on, it was like I think I fell down. I fell to my knees in a very dramatic way, and like people clapped. It was very, very sweet because it was just like I think it was more just like someone had run a marathon. Yeah. And everyone was like, that was grueling getting through that. But he was so. It was a really lovely moment. It was actually one of the first moments where on a film set where I really didn't give a fuck how I was doing.
Oh, really?
Whether
Like you were able to get out of your own head.
Yeah, whether I was getting it right or not.
Fincher does, you know, he of the 197 takes, you know, and there was a lot of prosthetics. So often you'd start at 4 in the morning, and you think, okay, well, a regular human being would have you finishing at 6 or 7 at night, but you'd find yourself there some nights at 11, still working. You know, you felt like, you know, the Wicked Witch of the West, you know, melting, but you kept shooting. But it was astonishing because he is meticulous, but also so engaged as a director, and he knew he was at the beginning of you know, that digital process, and it was one of the strongest memories I have is getting used to. I'm going to really date myself now, but getting used to the different rhythm that one has when one works with film, literal film in the camera, where you'll do 1, maybe 2 takes and you'll stop, you'll decompress, you'll reload, you'll probably chat to the focus puller, you have a chat to the director, and then you will wind up again and do another take. Whereas this, we would just go and go and go and go and go. And so it felt, I felt like quite cultish actually at the beginning of the process because it was an entirely new way of working, and so it's perfect for him because, you know, he often, you know, I think that most takes I did was probably about 36, but you know, you will go through a dip where, you know, you'll all lose your way but come back, but you find a different type of rhythm, and also watching him really invent the way that you light on digital. Because often what happens is, you know, I watched a Papatakis film called Les Abysses, that based on The Maids, because I was about to do The Maids with the Sydney Theatre Company with Isabelle Huppert, and I was in Berlin, and I thought, great, I finally got a copy, I'll put it on, and I was so shocked because it looked like someone's terrible home video, you know, shot on video, and this exquisite, beautifully, masterly lit film was it just, I wasn't being able to see it in the right way. But Fincher knows how most people are going to consume the work, and so he's lighting and shooting for the correct medium. So it was a very important and you know, big privilege for me to have that sort of ability to be right there learning how to work on digital.